Continuing from the previous episode 507. Chapter 1436, Imminent War. The Falling Star Pavilion was undoubtedly at its most secure this year because today was the day mentioned on the challenge card that came from the Profound River Alliance. The Falling Star Pavilion still did not know why the Profound River Alliance would launch a major campaign, but regardless of what the case was, the Falling Star Pavilion would not reveal any fear in front of others. The news that the experts from the Profound River Alliance would gather at the Falling Star Pavilion had already spread. Hence, many people had hurried to the Falling Star Pavilion during these few days. Everyone understood that the conflicts that had been experienced over these 2 years had caused the Profound River Alliance and the Falling Star Pavilion to truly become enemies. With this sudden situation occurring after both parties had suppressed themselves for such a long time, it would definitely be an extremely spectacular show. Many experts naturally did not want to miss such an interesting situation. The Falling Star Pavilion did not take any actions to expel the people who intended to watch the show after hearing the news. Instead, it had provided the pavilion with a reason to dispatch experts to watch the people. Anyone who acted unusual would be treated like an enemy and killed. As the anticipation of many people grew, the day stated on the challenge card slowly arrived. There was an extremely tall mountain where the main hall of the Falling Star Pavilion was located. The slopes of the mountain were extremely steep and dangerous. It was difficult for an ordinary person to ascend it. Moreover, the peak of the mountain seemed to have been hacked apart by an axe. This area had been turned into an extremely spacious and smooth square. This place was where the Falling Star Pavilion received guests. At this moment, many people stood within this densely packed square. Numerous powerful auras rose and spread across the sky. Everyone could tell that the Falling Star Pavilion had become an extremely dangerous place. Subsequently, the people in the square waited for the experts from the Profound River Alliance to arrive. Yao Lao stood with his hands behind him at the center of the square. His eyes were calm. Kai Lin, the little fairy doctor, Qing Lin and some guest elders of the Falling Star Pavilion stood behind him. This lineup was sufficient to stir the exclamations of some of the surrounding observers. We did not manage to gain much intelligence related to the operations of the Profound River Valley this time around. It is rumored that even some of the elders in the Profound River Alliance do not know why they are attacking this time around. Kai Lin suddenly spoke as she looked in the direction of the entrance to the Star Realm. Yao Lao slightly nodded. They were too pressed for time. It was indeed a little difficult to obtain top-secret information. The Star Realm has already entered a state of high alert. Some of the weaker disciples have already been relocated and most of the elders have been summoned back. Kai Lin softly reported, "Everything is prepared. We are only waiting for the Profound River Alliance to come." Yao Lao nodded again. He was just about to speak when his eyes hardened. He looked at the entrance to the Star Realm and faintly said, "They are here." The hearts of everyone present tightened after hearing Yao Lao's words. Their eyes gathered on the entrance of the Star Realm. A big hole was slowly torn at that space. Immediately, a monstrous aura brutally charged into this realm like an evil ferocious beast. A faint laugh that was filled with a dark chill resounded within the Star Realm like rolling thunder. "Yao Chen, it has been many years since we last met. How are you?" After hearing this thunder-like voice reverberating through the air, one could see a large number of people swarming through the spatial crack. They immediately turned into many rays of light that appeared in the sky above the square within a couple of flashes. While this large group of people rushed into the Star Realm, the Do Chi within the bodies of all the Falling Star Pavilion elders began to quietly circulate. Their eyes were filled with caution. Yao Lao slowly lifted his head. His eyes looked at the leader's spot of the large group. A dark gray-robed human figure stood in the sky at that spot. This person had long gray hair, and his face did not have many wrinkles. If not for the aged aura that filled his glittering blue eyes, no one would have regarded him as an old demon who had lived for hundreds of years. At a glance, this gray-robed person appeared extremely ordinary. Even the aura within his body was like that of an ordinary person. His entire person appeared unassuming, but everyone understood that a person who could stand there was definitely not a simple character. "Old Demon Tian Ming, it is unexpected that you are still alive." Yao Lao's eyes paused on this gray-robed figure as he slowly laughed. "Ha ha, even someone like you, who only had a soul left, can be revived. How can the old me die so easily?" That gray-robed human figure smiled after hearing this reply. His voice was calm as he spoke. Yao Lao lifted his eyelids. He ignored old demon Tian Ming and swept his eyes over the large group behind him. It was obvious that the experts from the Profound River Alliance had all come. There were at least 100 people present, and around half of this group possessed the strength of a Do Zun. This lineup, along with the banned Sheng old demon Tian Ming, could be described as terrifying. This lineup might appear unusually powerful, but it was clearly insufficient if one wished to rely on these people to destroy the Falling Star Pavilion. After these years of development, the number of experts in the Falling Star Pavilion was not less than the amount in the Profound River Alliance. Moreover, Yao Lao was also an elite banned Sheng like that old demon Tian Ming. The Falling Star Pavilion and the Profound River Alliance have difficulty coexisting. In the end, the old me must ultimately step forward. Yao Lao, on the account us being acquaintances in the past, as long as your Falling Star Pavilion withdraws 500 kilometers from the territories of the Profound River Alliance and promises not to start any conflict with the Profound River Alliance in the future, our Profound River Alliance will withdraw today. Old demon Tian Ming's faint voice was transmitted through the air, causing the expressions of many Falling Star Pavilion to change. You must be dreaming. Kai Lin's replied in an icy cold voice. Withdrawing 500 kilometers? Wouldn't that mean that the Falling Star Pavilion would shrink by half? Moreover, they must promise not to have any conflict with the Profound River Alliance in the future? Would that not mean that they would have to submit to these people? How would the Falling Star Pavilion continue to survive in the Central Plains if they agreed to these terms? It is obvious that these people are provoking us. The little fairy doctor knit her brows as she spoke. The Profound River Alliance should be clearly aware that it was impossible for them to agree to such terms. Yao Lao's eyes calmly stared at old demon Tian Ming. A moment later, a cold smile appeared on his face. He did not withdraw. The other experts around the surrounding mountains did not dare to display any unusual actions at this moment. From the looks of it, the Profound River Alliance was clearly intending to start a war with the Falling Star Pavilion. Yao Chen, what do you say? Have you made up your mind? Old demon Tian Ming's rolled his eyes as he asked after waiting for a moment. Yao Lao laughed after hearing these questions. He asked, do you think the Profound River Alliance has the qualification to utter these words, given its strength? In that case, do you mean that you disagree? Old demon Tian Ming withdrew the cold smile on his face and slowly demanded. Yao Lao smiled and nodded. He suddenly waved his hand at the same time. Bang bang! Many extremely powerful auras suddenly erupted from the surrounding mountains as Yao Lao waved his hand. Wave after wave of Do Chi light pillars spluttered out. They entwined themselves in the sky and finally bloomed. It appeared like a big formation that surrounded old demon Tian Ming's group in the sky. The people on the surrounding mountains were slightly startled when they saw this sudden unexpected change. It seemed that this Falling Star Pavilion had come prepared. The good show today was finally about to start. Yao Chen, it seems that you really won't give in until you are faced with grim reality. Old demon Tian Ming watched the Do Chi light curtain lower from the surrounding sky. A cold smile slowly appeared. After which, his eyes landed on Yao Lao as he said, given the strength of my Profound River Alliance, it is indeed difficult to destroy your Falling Star Pavilion. However, do you think that this elderly self would be so foolish to deliver myself to your hands without absolute confidence? Yao Lao's group frowned after hearing this question. Two misters, please show yourselves. Old demon Tian Ming laughed in a strange fashion. Following which, he let out a loud cry. Kai! The space beside old demon Tian Ming suddenly began to wiggle in front of everyone's eyes after his words sounded. A spatial crack was formed and two clusters of dark monstrous auras swiftly flew out of this crack in space like floodwater. Yao Lao's expression slowly sank as he sensed these two familiar auras. His eyes stared intently at the crack in space as he spit out in a gloomy voice, Hall of Souls. You people have indeed intervened. Tisk tisk, Yao Chen, I said before that your Falling Star Pavilion will be turned into ruins sooner or later. However, you should also be glad that this has been delayed by 2 years. A churning black fog surged out of the crack in space and two figures slowly appeared in front of many pairs of eyes. At the same time, a dark and cold laugh also sounded. Yu. A dense expression flashed across Yao Lao's eyes after hearing this strange laughter. A black fog churned in the sky before slowly scattering. Two figures appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The first was a skeleton-like old man who was surprisingly the second Tianjun of the Hall of Souls, Gu, whom they had met in the ancient wasteland region. Another figure stood behind him. Although the aura of this person was not as strong, this person also possessed the strength of a Ban Sheng, but it was that of an initial-level Ban Sheng. Two Ban Shengs. If one included Old Demon Tian Ming, there was a total of 3 of them. This lineup immediately caused many to gently inhale a breath of cool air. The faces of some elders from the Falling Star Pavilion began to turn pale. Yao Chen, do you need to reconsider the conditions that I offered earlier? A strange smile surfaced on Old Demon Tian Ming's face as he asked in a sinister manner. Yao Lao's expression was gloomy. He slowly clenched his hand under his sleeve. Yao Lao, it is pointless to admit defeat. Given the Hall of Souls and Profound River Alliance's methods, it is impossible for them to continue to allow us to survive. Kai Lin's face was icy cold. A chilly glint flickered within her pretty eyes. Now, we have no other choice but to fight them to death. The surrounding Falling Star Pavilion's experts looked at Yao Lao and waited for his decision. Who? Yao Lao gently exhaled. A moment later, he nodded. He also understood this reasoning. Since this is the case, let's fight with them. A ferocious expression surfaced on Yao Lao's face after he uttered those last few words. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Duh. Continuing from the previous episode 508. Chapter 1437. Big Battle in the Star Realm. Old Demon Tian Ming was monitoring Yao Lao's expression. After seeing a ruthlessness surface on Yao Lao's face, he understood that the Falling Star Pavilion would not submit. The dense smile on his face quickly intensified as he said, "It seems that this Falling Star Pavilion will not be able to avoid bloodshed today. It's just as well. There are many experts present. We will be able to collect some souls at the same time." Yu laughed in a strange fashion. His tone clearly indicated that he thought little of the Falling Star Pavilion. They had 2 high-level Banshengs on their side and 1 initial-level Bansheng. This strength was clearly not something the Falling Star Pavilion could compare with. Today, they had arrived with the intention of killing. The Falling Star Pavilion would definitely be eliminated from the Central Plains forever. Yao Lao's expression was gloomy as he stared at Gu's group. He spoke in a deep voice, "Leave Gu and Old Demon Tian Ming for me to deal with. Kai Lin, Qing Lin, the little fairy doctor, the 3 of you will block that other initial-level Ban Sheng." The Ban Sheng class was divided into the initial, intermediate, and high level. Each sub-level possessed a great gap between them. The initial Ban Sheng class expert from the Hall of Souls should have just reached that level. He had yet to fully gain control his strength. Even though Kai Lin and the other 2 would find it difficult to defeat him, it was still possible to delay him a little. Yao Lao. The expressions of Kai Lin's group changed when they heard that Yao Lao was planning to fight 2 people by himself. Although Yao Lao was a high-level Ban Sheng, neither Old Demon Tian Ming nor Gu was weaker than him. Yao Lao would be at a disadvantage if those 2 were to join hands. Yao Lao waved his hand. He was clearly aware of the risk, but he did not have any other choices right now. An elite Ban Sheng was an extremely great pressure in this kind of fight. If these 2 Ban Shengs from the Hall of Souls were allowed to attack the other experts from the Falling Star Pavilion, it would undoubtedly be a one-sided massacre. If a massacre occurred, the Falling Star Pavilion would completely collapse. Hence, he needed to fight the other party's Ban Sheng at any cost. Let's just do it this way. All of you should be careful. Yao Lao did not say anything more after that. His body moved. He appeared a short distance in front of Old Demon Tian Ming and Gu. Monstrous Do Qi spread out of his body and locked onto those 2. Tisk tisk. Yao Chen, you were really arrogant to think that you can block the both of us by yourself? Old Demon Tian Ming and Gu immediately laughed after sensing that they had been locked onto by Yao Lao's aura. Yao Lao ignored their ridicule. His expression was dark and gloomy as a terrifying and pressurizing Do Qi lingered around his body. This Do Qi caused space itself to continuously distort. Attack. Don't kill those who surrender. Kill all those who stubbornly resist. Old Demon Tian Ming coldly laughed as he sensed the pressure from Yao Lao. He stepped forward in a sudden cold cry, which was filled with murderous intent, rang out. Understood. Hearing this cold cry from old demon Tian Ming, the many experts from the Profound River Alliance immediately revealed their murderous desires. Many majestic dou qis erupted from all directions. At the same time, many experts on the Falling Star Pavilion's side began to circulate their dou qi. Their expressions were unfriendly as they stared at those from the Profound River Alliance. Charge! This face-off continued for a moment before a ferocious cry suddenly sounded. The many experts from the Profound River Alliance flashed and turned into many rays of light that charged toward the square with lightning-like speed. The experts from the Falling Star Pavilion were unwilling to stay behind as they also charged forward. They clashed with the experts from the Profound River Alliance in the air, and an earth-shaking explosion erupted across the star realm. The surrounding individuals hurriedly withdrew into the distance as they watched this big war swiftly erupt. They were afraid of being implicated. He, brother Gu, let's also act to finish off this old fellow Yao Chen. Old demon Tian Ming loudly laughed after watching the big battle erupt in an instant. Gu nodded in a dark manner upon hearing Tian Ming's words. He had been planning to flatten the Falling Star Pavilion 2 years ago, but due to some schemes in the clan, he had no choice but to put the matters aside. Now that some of those schemes had progressed, he was finally able to find an opportunity to inform the clan and lead 3rd Tianjun, who had only just broken through, to find old demon Tian Ming. Gu promised to help Tian Ming eliminate the Falling Star Pavilion. The Profound River Alliance, which had been fighting with the Falling Star Pavilion for 2 years, was extremely happy upon hearing that a super faction like the Hall of Souls was willing to aid them. They immediately gathered their forces and subsequently caused this scene today. Haha, it has been many years since I have fought. Even my bones are a little rusty. However, being able to use a high-level banned Sheng as a congratulatory gift for the exit of my retreat makes it really worthwhile. Old demon Tian Ming laughed in a strange fashion. His foot suddenly stepped through the air as a monstrous dou qi swept out. His body flashed and appeared in front of Yao Lao. His white hand was like an eagle claw as it penetrated empty space and grabbed at Yao Lao's throat. HMPH. Yao Lao let out a cold snort when he sensed old demon Tian Ming's swift and ruthless attack. He did not dodge the attack. Instead, his fist, which contained a frightening force, mercilessly attacked old demon Tian Ming's head. From the looks of it, he was planning to exchange one life for another. Tisk tisk. My life is much more valuable than yours. Old demon Tian Ming's expression changed when he saw this attack, causing him to coldly laugh. They completely had the upper hand. It was naturally impossible for him to engage in an all-out fight with others. He quickly withdrew his claw and pulled back with lightning-like speed, dodging Yao Lao's punch in the process. Yao Lao was about to give chase after his punch missed when a black fog suddenly pounced over. A miserable screech was emitted from the black fog. A black chain broke through the fog and cut the surrounding space, forming many black crack lines. Get lost! Yao Lao's expression was dark and cold. His large hand grabbed at the empty space in front of him. The space itself abruptly stilled, repelling those black chains. At the same time, his body flashed and he charged into the black fog. His fist furiously smashed toward a certain spot in the black fog. Bang! A muffled sound was immediately emitted as his punch landed. Soon after, the body of Gu stumbled and shot out of the black fog. Although the 3 of them were all high-level banned Sheng, Yao Lao possessed an advantage that an ordinary banned Sheng did not possess since his spiritual strength far exceeded theirs. The benefits of one's spiritual strength when fighting against those of the same level would enable one to gain an advantage. Attack together. Surprise flashed across old demon Tian Ming's eyes when he saw Gu was forced back by Yao Lao. He immediately cried out in a deep voice. Gu's expression was dark as he nodded. The 2 of them shot out at the same time. Monstrous dou qi appeared like a ferocious dragon sweeping over the sky as they rushed toward Yao Lao. The large space collapsed during this frightening exchange. While Yao Lao was holding off old demon Tian Ming and Gu, the 3rd Tianjun from the Hall of Souls had looked at the chaotic battles below. He was about to intervene when a 7-colored lightning suddenly struck from the sky. HMPH. This sudden attack caused the eyes of the 3rd Tianjun to turn cold. He waved his sleeve and forcefully shattered that thunderbolt. His eyes followed the attack back to its point of origin where he saw a 10,000-foot-long seven-colored python. It lingered in the air as a strange pressure quietly descended. Seven-colored heaven-swallowing python? A surprised expression flashed across the third Tianan's eyes after he saw this large python. He was just about to attack when a 10-foot-wide grayish-brown pillar explosively shot over. The scent of the lethal poison in that pillar caused him to frown. He clenched his hand and space itself was solidifying the Do Chi pillar at the same time. He immediately flicked his finger and shattered it. Hiss! Soon after shattering the Do Chi pillar that contained a lethal poison, a mysterious voice was suddenly transmitted from in front of him. The third Tianan's eyes swept over. His eyes immediately hardened when he saw a green-clothed lady floating in the air. A 10,000-foot large nine-headed snake illusory figure was vaguely visible. Ancient Heaven Serpent? Seeing that enormous snake-shaped illusory figure, a solemn expression finally surged onto third Tianan's face. Although these three women were all peak Do Zuns, one of them was a seven-colored heaven-swallowing python, another possessed a lethal Do Chi filled with poison that even gave him a sense of danger, and the last had the Ancient Heaven Serpent. This combination caused even him to feel some pressure since he had just broken through to the banned Sheng class. The third Tianan's eyes quickly turned icy cold as a glint flashed in them. Regardless of how long it had been since he had broken through to the banned Sheng class, he was still a genuine banned Sheng. Even though these three women possessed extraordinary abilities, it was impossible for them to truly fight against him. Today, the Falling Star Pavilion will definitely be exterminated. The third Tianjun coldly laughed. His body flashed and he appeared in front of Qing Lin in a ghost-like fashion. Frightening Do Chi gathered into a layer of unusual crystals. After which, a palm was slammed toward Qing Lin. Qing Lin was startled as she sensed the speed of the third Tianjun that caught her off guard. Light flickered in her eyes as a figure appeared in front of her. Bang! The third Tianan's hand slammed down and crushed the expert Do Zun under Qing Lin's control into a pile of mincemeat. She has the legendary triple jade green snake flower pupils. No wonder she is able to control the Ancient Heaven Serpent's soul. The third Tianjun was a person with vast experience. He managed to identify Qing Lin's secret at a glance. He was about to attack once again when a seven-colored thunderbolt once again struck, and the little fairy doctor, whose black hair had turned white, rushed over from behind. Her ferocious attack targeted the third Tianjun. The third Tianjun coldly laughed after sensing that he had been surrounded. The Do Chi within his body erupted like a volcano and swept apart in front of many shocked eyes. While an incomparably intense battle had erupted within the star realm, the mountain at the back remained as quiet as ever. The huge rock door stood quietly. Crack! This silence continued for a while before many tiny crack lines began to spread over the mountain around the rock door. These cracks might have been tiny, but they were extremely deep. It was as though they had spread from the center of the mountain. Following the appearance of these crack lines, there seemed to be something slowly awakening deep within the mountain. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 509. Chapter 1438. Leaving the Retreat, Do Sheng. Bang! Three figures crossed each other in the sky with lightning-like speed. Frightening Do Chi ripples formed a ring shape that spread in all directions. No experts dared to step within a 10,000-meter radius. This frightening ripple could grind an elite Do Zun into a pool of blood. HMPH, the human figures crossed each other and stumbled back a couple of steps. Even space itself had shaken until it collapsed and formed a large dark region wherever their feet landed. Tisk tisk, Yao Chen, so what if your spiritual strength is powerful? Do you really think that you can fight against the two of us alone? Old demon Tian Ming stabilized his body and suppressed his somewhat churning blood. He looked at the gloomy-faced Yao Lao a short distance away and coldly laughed. Ji Yu by the side also coldly laughed. He could not help but clench his hand while feeling a little shaken in his heart. He understood that if he was alone, he would not be a match for Yao Lao. The other party's spiritual strength far surpassed his. It is rumored that the fighting ability of alchemists during the ancient times was extremely great. It is likely due to their strong spiritual strength. It is likely this Yao Chen is already in the heavenly state among the four great spiritual states: man, soul, heavenly, and D. One would not be able to find many who have reached this stage even if they searched over the central plains. Ji Yu's eyes flickered. The murderous intent in his heart also became denser. He needed to finish off this old fellow today no matter what. Otherwise, this person would likely bring disaster in the future. Old Demon Tian Ming, don't give him any time to catch his breath. Kill him! He won't be able to hold out for long. Ji Yu's eyes were dark and cold as he cried out in a chilly voice. Old Demon Tian Ming nodded upon hearing this. He strangely laughed. Tisk tisk, my heart is feeling very excited the moment I think of being able to kill a high-level Ban Sheng. The seal formed by Old Demon Tian Ming's hands changed after his laughter sounded. A vast gray dough chi surged out from his body in all directions. Finally, it agglomerated into a 1,000-foot large illusory figure. This illusory figure did not have an actual face, but it emitted an extremely frightening aura. Profound sky palm. Old Demon Tian Ming's hand suddenly slammed towards Yao Lao. The huge illusory figure behind him also moved at the same time. The enormous palm was accompanied by a frightening wind that chilled one's soul and carried waves of sonic booms that ruthlessly shot toward Yao Lao. Yao Lao did not dare to slight the illusory hand after sensing the frightening energy contained within it. Dou Qi quickly surged out of his body. His Dou Qi finally turned into a 1,000-foot tall fire palm that collided with the illusory palm. Bang! Both palms collided and a rumbling thunder-like explosion immediately resonated across the sky. A terrifying Dou Qi storm swept apart from the point of contact. It shattered a mountain by the side into dust that scattered apart. This Dou Qi storm erupted and spread. Old Demon Tian Ming in the sky was also struck by it. He rapidly staggered back and his aura became slightly sluggish. His originally pale face had become even paler. Although Old Demon Tian Ming suffered a little, Yao Lao did not have an easy time. The blood and qi within his body churned from the impact, but he had just suppressed it with much difficulty when a black figure was suddenly magnified in his eyes. A sharp, dark, and cold palm wind once again surged over, forcing him to have no choice but to receive it again. Bang! Even with Yao Lao's great strength, experiencing another head-on clash with Ji Yu caused him to feel a sweetness in his throat, but he forcefully managed to swallow the blood. The three of them were at the same level, and it was obvious that Yao Lao was no match against these two together. Hiss! While Yao Lao suppressed some injuries that had appeared within his body, a snake's cry that contained an immense pain suddenly erupted from the distant sky. He hurriedly turned his head, only to see Kai Lin's seven-colored heaven-swallowing python body was sent flying by a palm from the third Tianjun. The frightening force of an elite Ban Sheng had shattered the tough scales on the body of the seven-colored heaven-swallowing python. Blood scattered down from the sky like a storm. Kai Lin, the little fairy doctor's expression altered slightly after seeing Kai Lin be injured by the third Tianjun. Her bright eyes furiously glared at the dark and dense face of the third Tianjun. Her delicate body moved and rushed behind him. She moved her palm and a fist-sized grayish-brown bead appeared in her hand. Woeful poison calamity. A cold glint flashed across the little fairy doctor's bright eyes. A thumb-sized grayish-brown liquid suddenly seeped out of the poison pill in her hand. Waves of white fog erupted from that space the moment the liquid appeared, and it shot toward the third Tianjun. Bang! With the little fairy doctor's speed, she was unable to escape the third Tianjun's detection. A black figure flashed in front of her when the grayish-brown liquid shot out. He turned around and waved his sleeve. It swung into the little fairy doctor's delicate body. This weak sleeve appeared as hard as metal. It caused the little fairy doctor to spit out a mouthful of blood as her delicate body flew backwards. Chi! Although she was blasted backwards, the grayish-brown liquid still landed on the third Tianjun's robes. His robes immediately turned into ashes, and some poison liquid landed on his arm like maggots in one's bones. That portion of his flesh was quickly corroded. The third Tianjun's expression changed when he saw that the poisonous liquid was so lethal that even his Dou Qi could not block it, but he was a ruthless individual. His hand was like a blade as it swiftly cut his arm. The large portion of his flesh with poison adhering to it was cut away, revealing some dense white bones. You can be considered to have some ability to be able to cause me to cut off my own flesh. However, you will have to compensate me with your life. The third Tianjun endured the intense pain on his arm. He glanced at the little fairy doctor, who was flying backwards, with a ruthless expression. His body moved, and he was just about to give chase when a green figure swiftly rushed over. A powerful Do Chi surged and blocked him. An insignificant and futile effort. The third Tianjun coldly laughed after seeing Qing Lin blocking him. He was not afraid even when the three of them attacked together. Even less needed to be said with Qing Lin alone. Although the triple jade green snake flower pupils were powerful, these things were simply unorthodox methods in the face of absolute strength. Bang 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 bang. Qing Lin could only bitterly endure the third Tianan's incomparably ferocious attack, but it was clear that she had fallen to a disadvantage. If not for the help from the triple jade green snake flower pupils, she would have already been seriously injured by the third Tianjun. Even though she hadn't been seriously injured yet, she would likely be defeated soon. The entire star realm had all fallen into chaotic and intense battles. However, the main stages was still Yao Lao's battle and the third Tianan's fight. Everyone understood that if these elite band Sheng were to be freed from their fights, it would be a fatal blow for the other party's expert. Moreover, from the looks of the present situation, Yao Lao, Kai Lin, and the others had clearly fallen into a disadvantage. Ha ha, Yao Chen, are you still going to continue to bitterly struggle? Ji Yu and old demon Tian Ming continued to press Yao Lao in the sky. After being entangled in a battle with these two, Yao Lao had gradually entered a tired state. His attacks and defenses were inferior to what they had been before. Yao Lao was at a disadvantage in a prolonged battle with these two. Faced with the strange laughter of old demon Tian Ming, Yao Lao's expression became dark and solemn. However, he did not dare to split his attention to retort. Bang! Just when Yao Lao had focused his attention to deal with the battle, muffled sounds suddenly exploded in the distant sky. From the corner of his eyes, Yao Lao saw that Qing Lin was finally no match for the third Tianjun. Her enemy had targeted her opening. A fist flew and even the heaven serpent illusory figure behind her was forcefully scattered. Tisk tisk. Getting distracted in battle is not good. This scene caused Yao Lao's heart to feel chilled. His action slowed for an instant. Immediately, a ghost-like figure appeared behind him and a palm was violently thrown. It firmly landed on Yao Lao's back. Grug. This sudden sneak attack caused half of Yao Lao's body to become numb. A mouthful of fresh blood was spat out. His body descended and finally smashed into the square. Many large crack lines spread and finally covered half of the mountain. The hearts of many Falling Star Pavilion experts sank upon seeing Yao Lao fall. Yao Lao was the strongest person in the Falling Star Pavilion. If he was defeated, the morale of the Falling Star Pavilion would definitely take a beating. Members of the Falling Star Pavilion, Yao Chen has already been defeated. If you still insist on this stubborn resistance, this elderly self does not mind killing you all. After defeating Yao Lao, old demon Tian Ming stepped through empty air and swept his sinister gaze over the star realm. A cold cry that was filled with a murderous aura resounded beside everyone's ear. Everyone in the Falling Star Pavilion was stunned after hearing this cold cry from old demon Tian Ming. Most of the experts in the Falling Star Pavilion revealed gloomy and hopeless faces. Those experts, who had come to watch the battle, felt some sadness in their hearts. It seemed that this Falling Star Pavilion, which had been grand for a short while, was about to be destroyed by the hands of the Profound River Alliance and the Hall of Souls. Old demon Tian Ming smiled in a pleased manner after sensing that the star realm had become much quieter. After which, he waved his hand. He looked at the pale-faced Yao Lao struggling to stand and coldly said, "Yao Chen, remember, your fate today is entirely your own fault. You chose to swallow a bitter pill instead of taking the easy road." Yao Lao wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were ferocious as they stared at old demon Tian Ming. A madness gradually appeared within his eyes. Kill him. Otherwise, the situation might change if we tarry. Old demon Tian Ming knit his brows as he observed the expression in Yao Lao's eyes. He looked at Ji Yu before suggesting in a deep voice. "All right." Ji Yu also nodded. Bang! While old demon Tian Ming and Ji Yu were preparing to launch a killing attack to completely finish Yao Lao off, the entire star realm suddenly began to tremble. Then, all the mountains began to wildly shake, appearing as though an earthquake had struck. What is happening? This sudden unexpected change caused old demon Tian Ming and Ji Yu's expression to change as they asked a question. Bang! A green mountain deep within the star realm suddenly exploded after their questions sounded. The enormous mountain turned into rock fragments in front of many stunned eyes. At the same time, a monstrous flame, which appeared like a flame that could destroy the world, swept out of the deep mountains. Finally, it turned into a rolling fire wave that swiftly surged toward this part of the sky. The sea of flames surged over and a familiar cold cry suddenly reverberated over the star realm. Today, anyone in the star realm who does not belong to my pavilion will die. A dense pressurizing aura spread with lightning-like speed as this dangerous cry roared across the land. Upon sensing this monstrous aura that contained a great pressure, old demon Tianming and Guu, who were suspended in the sky, instantly stilled. A rich shock surged onto their faces. Their sharp cries of disbelief appeared in the sky. Sheng, how is that possible? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 510. Chapter 1439. Angry Buddha Reincarnation. The sea of fire surged over the star realm in all directions in front of a countless number of shocked eyes. Finally, the fire gathered in the sky above the battlegrounds. Flames churned and slowly separated into a fire path. A black-robed figure stepped through the fire wave using the fire path. That figure slowly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Xiaoyan, Junior Pavilion Chief? Junior Pavilion Chief has exited his retreat. Many exclamations that contained various emotions sounded within the star realm as everyone looked at this familiar figure. Those from the Falling Star Pavilion were filled with a wild joy while those from the Profound River Alliance were shocked. How is this possible? This brat was only at the peak of the Dozun class 2 years ago. How is it possible for him to break through to a Do Sheng? Moreover, he is a genuine Do Sheng. Guu looked at the young figure walking through the wave of fire in disbelief. He roared across the sky in a somewhat crazy voice. This scene had an overly terrifying impact on him. He is that Xiaoyan? Didn't those damn bastards say that he is not a threat? What happened? The face of old demon Tianming by the side involuntarily twitched as he yelled. It's the Bodhisattva heart. This brat obtained the Bodhisattva heart. Guu's eyes wildly flickered. He seemed to have recalled something a moment later. His teeth were clenched as he said, no wonder this brat seemed to have completely vanished during these 2 years. He was in a retreat to break through to the Do Sheng class. All fights within the star realm halted at this moment. Many excited and terrified eyes locked onto the human figure walking out of the sea of flames. The terrifying pressure that was emitted caused even an elite Dozun's soul to tremble. This pressure was many times stronger than the pressure generated by a high-level Ban Sheng like Guu. The sea of flames spread. Xiaoyan's body stood in the air in front of countless pairs of shocked eyes. He studied the star realm, which was covered with signs of battles. Murderous intent wildly surged within his black eyes. Xiaoyan's body flashed. The next time he appeared, he was barely above the enormous square. He landed in a deep pit and appeared beside Yao Lao, who was covered in blood. Both of his eyes strangely became extremely calm as he looked at Yao Lao's miserable appearance. Only those familiar with Xiaoyan were aware that this was his most frightening state of mind. Cough, cough. Ha ha, little fellow, you have finally left your retreat. If you had been a little later, you would have had to bury these old bones of mine. Yao Lao's eyes erupted with great joy after seeing Xiaoyan appear beside him. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and loudly laughed. Teacher, sorry, leave everything to me. Xiaoyan was quiet. He softly uttered these words before lifting up the seriously injured Yao Lao. After which, Xiaoyan rushed out of the large pit and placed him on a stone platform. He swept his eyes over and a couple of Falling Star Pavilion elders hurried over to take care of Yao Lao. Kai Lin and the others are also injured. Yao Lao rubbed the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth as he informed Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan nodded. His hand grabbed toward empty space and 3 figures flew over under his control. They landed on the stone platform beside Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan looked at the blood that hung on the corner of Kai Lin's, the little fairy doctor's and Qing Lin's mouths. After which he focused on Kai Lin. Her cold, bewitching face was pale. Dense blood dyed her clothes until it became sticky. Xiaoyan pulled out a large black robe from his storage ring and used it to cover Kai Lin's body. He did not utter a single word as he took out a bottle of medicinal pills and handed it to the little fairy doctor, who was still conscious. She received the bottle and softly said, "This was done by the third Tianjun. That person is an initial level Ban Sheng." Xiao Yan glanced at the little fairy doctor and smiled. However, this smile was ferocious and sinister. "Be careful." Kai Lin spoke with an extremely weak voice when Xiao Yan turned around. She was unable to see through Xiao Yan's strength, but she knew the other party had 3 Ban Shengs. At this moment, Yao Lao had been seriously injured and was unable to join the battle. Xiao Yan's strength might have soared, but it would be quite difficult for him to come out victorious. "Rest well. There is no need to worry about anything else." Xiao Yan smiled and comforted her. After which, his eyes shifted to the surrounding Falling Star Pavilion elders. There were quite a number of unfamiliar faces among them. These people had likely joined the Falling Star Pavilion while he was still in his retreat. Faced with Xiao Yan's gaze, these extremely arrogant elders hurriedly lowered their eyes out of respect. The frightening aura that vaguely seeped out of Xiao Yan's body had caused even their legs to become feeble. "Take care of them. There is no need for all of you to fight." "Understood, Junior Pavilion Chief." The many Falling Star Pavilion experts respectfully replied after hearing this command. After issuing some instructions, Xiao Yan finally lifted his head. His eyes looked to the sky. Gu, Old Demon Tian Ming, and the third Tianjun from the Hall of Souls had gathered together at that spot. Their eyes were cautiously studying him. The faces of the 3 of them were a little stiff as they watched Xiao Yan look over with a calm expression in his eyes. They had not expected the situation to change like this. With their senses, they were naturally able to sense Xiao Yan's current strength. 1-star Do Sheng. He was not a Ban Sheng. He was a genuine Do Sheng. There was only a 1-word difference between a Ban Sheng and a Do Sheng, but there was a relatively frightening gap between the two. Although an elite Ban Sheng could also be called a Do Sheng since they possessed a strength that far surpassed that of an elite peak Do Zun, they could only be strictly described as a fake Sheng. Only when one truly reached the 1-star level could one be called a genuine Do Sheng. The Ban Sheng class was separated into the initial, intermediate, and high levels. These levels appeared small, but it was difficult if one wished to leap across them. For example, it had been decades since Gu had advanced to the Ban Sheng class, yet he had only become a high-level Ban Sheng. Old Demon Tian Ming had remained at the high-level Ban Sheng for an even longer period of time, but he still failed to reach a 1-star Do Sheng. Thus, it was possible to tell just how great of a gap there was between a 1-star Do Sheng and a high-level Ban Sheng. Even though the 3 of them looked calm, they involuntarily felt a great storm appear within their hearts after processing that Xiao Yan had left the Do Zun class, leapt over the Ban Sheng levels, and reached a 1-star Do Sheng within a short 2 years. The scenery of the Star Realm is nice. This is not a bad place to be buried. Xiao Yan looked at those 3. His body moved as he appeared a short distance away from them as he spoke in a faint voice. "Xiao Yan, you should not act arrogantly. So what if you are a 1-star Do Sheng? Do you not believe that I will call people from within the clan to come out and finish you off?" Gu's expression was dark and cold as he cried out. Despite his strong front, Gu's heart had also began to tremble. An elite Do Sheng was considered the top within the Han clan. One was usually unable to even see those old fellows. Other than the clan head's personal summons, they would ignore anyone else. They were not people that Gu could simply summon as he pleased. Xiao Yan thought about his words before nodding. He waved his sleeve and a frightening ripple spread out. In the blink of an eye, the space within the star realm became distorted and it appeared as though no spatial ripple could be emitted. These people would fail to escape even if they were to use a spatial scroll. Gu's expression turned even blacker after seeing that his words had ended up causing Xiao Yan to lock space itself. He involuntarily felt the impulse to slap himself. "What are you looking at? Do you think that he will easily let us off today? Although he is a 1-star Do Sheng, his foundation has yet to stabilize. He will not be able to do anything to us if we cooperate." Gu forcefully suppressed the impulse within his heart. He saw the furious eyes of Old Demon Tian Ming by the side and involuntarily cursed. Old Demon Tian Ming was filled with a fury after being chided by Gu. If Gu had not reassured him that nothing would go wrong, he would not have decided to attack the Falling Star Pavilion. In the end, the "nothing would go wrong" had evolved into this situation. If he wasn't a somber person, he would have involuntarily started furiously cursing. Although old demon Tian Ming was filled with fury, he also understood his current situation. The three of them might still have a chance to survive if they worked together. They would truly end up dying if they separated. Let's fight him together. Old demon Tian Ming spoke in a gloomy manner. He did not say anything more as his feet stepped through empty air and a monstrous dou qi surged. A 10,000-foot large illusory figure formed behind him. At the same time, Gu and the third Tianjun began to circulate their dou qi. In an instant, a wild wind rose in the sky as dark clouds churned. It appeared as though a big storm was imminent. Xiao Yan watched these three individuals join hands. His black eyes appeared completely calm, not a ripple within them, but there was a chill that could freeze one's soul slowly surging deep within his eyes. Profound Sky Blood Palm, 10,000 Soul Heaven Lock. The Gu's aura wildly surged along with the other two. In the end, they furiously roared with bright red faces. Three winds that contains extremely fright-sharp energy wind instantly shattered this empty space. They began like three furious dragons that roared wildly at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's black eyes watched the frightening attacks that those three had used all their strength to unleash. He slowly lifted his hand. There was a strange expression within his eyes. This is something that I came to comprehend while breaking through to the Dou Sheng class. Today, I will offer the three of you as sacrifices to it. 4 types of flames suddenly erupted from Xiao Yan's hand after his indifferent voice sounded. They began to rotate in a crazy manner. Within the blink of an eye, they had turned into a 4-colored 1,000 feet large strange ring. The ring continued to rotate. The interior of the ring was black. This kind of black was even purer than the spatial black holes. It was a kind of reincarnation feeling. The ring was formed in Xiao Yan's palm. Subsequently, it was pushed downwards and gently collided with the full force attacks by Gu's group. This attack is called Angry Buddha Reincarnation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 511. Chapter 1440. Massacre. The enormous circular plate of black that was surrounded by fire emitted a reincarnation feeling as it collided with the frightening energy from Gu's 3-man team in front of countless pairs of eyes. Kai. Both parties collided. The frightening collusion made it seem as though meteorites had collided, but the surprising thing was that an earth-shaking explosion did not occur. The 3 energy attacks that were a couple thousand feet across suddenly split apart in front of many shocked eyes. Looking from a distance, it appeared as though I had met a searing flame and swiftly melted. That slowly rotating black plate seemed to show signs of separating air itself. Ka. The enormous energy attack swiftly scattered. Within a short instant, it had turned into nothing. On the other hand, that enormous black plate surrounded by fire continued to float and slowly rotate in the sky. What is this Dou skill? Shock and disbelief surged into Gu's group's eyes as they watched their attacks disintegrate before they could even touch the plate. The 3 of them combined might not be able to defeat Xiao Yan's 1-star Dou Sheng strength, but they should be able to do something. That strange black fire ring was really too terrifying. Using heavenly flames to create a new Dou skill. This little fellow constantly surprises people. Shock flashed over Yao Lao's face as he studied the slowly rotating fire ring with its black center from the ground. He could sense a frightening feeling from the darkness at the middle of the fireplate. If a person were to fall into it, that person's very soul would be annihilated. From a certain point of view, this was true destruction. This person is too strong, let's go. Gu's face twitched as he stared at Xiao Yan in the distance. Xiao Yan was staring back with cold eyes while his hands were clasped behind him. After this single exchange, Gu's group understood that they were no match for Xiao Yan. Gu swiftly turned around after he spoke. His body turned into a ray of light that hurried toward the exit of the star realm. Old demon Tian Ming and the 3rd Tianjun of the Hall of Souls hurriedly followed behind him. Those experts from the Profound River Alliance were traumatized after seeing the 3 of them turn around and flee. They hurriedly did the same as they tried to flee from the star realm like homeless strays. Rotate. Xiao Yan's eyes were indifferent when he saw this large group of figures attempt to flee. His voice was slowly emitted from his mouth. The enormous black plate in the sky suddenly shot out a black pillar of light after Xiao Yan uttered a command. This pillar quietly merged with space and caught up to GUU's group. Ah! Some unlucky fellows from the Profound River Alliance were pulled into the pillar. They were shocked to discover that their bodies had begun to swiftly disintegrate within this light pillar. They hurriedly unleashed their Do-Chi, but the shock in their eyes became even richer when their Do-Chi appeared. They had discovered that even the Do-Chi within their bodies had begun to slowly disintegrate into nothing after meeting the black light. Miserable screeches echoed across the star realm. Bastard, just what is this thing? GUU and the other two were encased in their monstrous Do-Chi. Their eyes were shocked and furious as they looked at the surrounding black light. The Do-Chi within their bodies was vast and powerful, allowing them to barely resist the light. However, at the rate their Do-Chi was disintegrating, they would sooner or later disintegrate into nothing like the others. Quick! Escape this light pillar! Old Demon Tian Ming let out a low roar. There was a horror within his voice. It was the first time that he had sensed death after so many years. Moreover, this was the first time he had felt this after having broken through the banned Sheng class. There was no need for old Demon Tian Ming's reminder. Upon sensing their Do-Chi rapidly disintegrate in that black light pillar, GUU and the third Tianjun immediately revealed drastic changes in their expressions. They unleashed their speed to their limits and hurried out of the light pillar. Can you escape? Xiaoyan shook his head after seeing the three of them try to escape. His hand suddenly clenched in the direction of GUU's group and space itself instantly solidified. The solidified space appeared like tough prison walls as they locked everyone within the black light pillar. Xiaoyan had frequently experienced stronger experts use this method to deal with him in the past. Now that his strength had soared to a one-star Do Sheng, he was finally able to experience the great joy of forming a prison by simply raising a hand. Bang bang bang! GUU's group crazily attacked the solidified space, but their respective strengths were far inferior to Xiaoyan's might. It was easier said than done when it came to breaking the space that Xiaoyan had solidified. Moreover, the black light pillar continued to disintegrate the Do-Chi within their bodies, causing their attacks to weaken. Everyone within the Star Realm watched the experts from the Profound River Alliance be restrained by Xiaoyan within the black light pillar. Regardless of how these people struggled, they could only await death. The hearts of those observers involuntarily chilled when they saw Xiaoyan's ruthless methods. They felt glad that they were on Xiaoyan's side. Ah! Sharp miserable screams continued to be emitted from the light pillar. Within a short 3 minutes, everyone in the light pillar other than GUU and the other two banned Shengs had disintegrated into nothing. Even their souls had been destroyed by that black light. Xiaoyan, let me off and the Profound Sky Sect will be a subordinate faction of the Falling Star Pavilion in the future. Old Demon Tian Ming was terrified. His crazy attacks remained futile as the Do-Chi in his body weakened. He faced the sky and roared loudly at Xiaoyan. There is no need. The Profound Sky Sect will cease to exist. Xiaoyan's expression remained indifferent as old Demon Tian Ming attempted to surrender. He slowly shook his head and softly added, I said the Star Realm is not a bad place to be buried. Little bastard, the old me will not hold back today. Old Demon Tian Ming's eyes immediately turned blood red after seeing that even surrendering was useless. Many blood pillars suddenly spluttered from his pores as his body swiftly swelled at this moment. This lunatic, GUU by the side had a change in expression upon seeing these blood pillars. He hurriedly pulled back with the third Tianjun. Bang! Old Demon Tian Ming's body swiftly swelled in front of many stunned eyes. An instant later, it emitted a bang and violently exploded like a barrel of explosives. A frightening energy storm quickly swept apart and shattered the solidified space around him. Xiaoyan looked at the spreading energy storm in a cold and indifferent manner. The seal formed by his hands changed and the black plate surrounded by a ring of fire emitted a terrifying suction force. It devoured the entire energy storm. Swish! An extremely dim light suddenly shot out the moment the energy storm disappeared, but it did not flee through the exit of the Star Realm. Instead, it secretly hurried toward a disciple of the Falling Star Pavilion. This trick is useless against me. Space suddenly stilled when this light was about to enter the body of a Falling Star Pavilion disciple. A cold voice was transmitted down at the same time. A fist-sized black light pillar separated from the black plate and landed on that dim light. A hopeless and miserable screech was emitted from the light. That miserable screech disappeared as a cold sweat covered the falling star pavilion disciple's head. The moment that dim light disintegrated, everyone understood that a high-level band Sheng had died. Kai, two rays of light with lightning-like speed suddenly rushed out of the black light pillar while the dim light disappeared. Those lights were Gu and the third Tianjun. They had borrowed old demon Tian Ming's strength to charge out. Stay behind. A coldness flashed across Xiaoyan's eyes when he saw them flee. His body moved and he appeared in front of them. Two fists were gently thrown out. However, the weak movements caused Gu's and the third Tianan's faces to be filled with shock because they had discovered that their bodies could not move. A savage expression flashed through Gu's eyes as he watched the hand rapidly magnify in his eyes. He suddenly grabbed the third Tianjun beside him and pushed him forward. His body used the force of the push to pull back. Bang! Xiaoyan's fist gently landed on the third Tianan's body. The third Tianan's body turned bright red upon contact. An extremely frightening heat spread over his body, causing him to wildly roar, but this roar had just sounded when flames sputtered out of all his holes. The third Tianan's body swiftly turned into ashes because of this high temperature. Gu felt a chill surge from his feet to his head after seeing how terrifying Xiaoyan's punch was. Xiaoyan's calm face appeared even more horrifying than a demon at this moment. It is dangerous to allow a tiger to grow. If I had known that this day would have come, I would have requested to head here and eliminate this brat. Gu felt a terrible regret in his heart. A couple of years ago, he had the opportunity to head over and capture Xiaoyan, but he had felt that Xiaoyan was too weak at that time, so he informed someone else to handle it. How could he have known that this change of hands would end up causing him to throw his life away? You should accompany him. Xiaoyan's eyes were calm as he observed Gu. His body flashed, and he appeared in front of Gu. After which, he reached out. Gu felt his entire body turn icy cold as Xiaoyan extended his long pale hand. Sizzle! Xiaoyan's hand was extremely quick, but it was just about to land on Gu when the space beside Gu violently distorted. A shriveled and elderly demon god-like arm was extended from the distorted space with lightning-like speed. A Do Sheng from the Hall of Souls? Is he finally going to reveal himself? Xiaoyan's eyes suddenly shrank when that black arm extended. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.